open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you, the God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
Good morning. It's true, this door is open to you. We really demonstrated that Thursday night in our Interfaith service. We say it's open Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Jew, whatever. We had all here Thursday night. And it's been a busy week, so I want to acknowledge that. Many of you have been volunteering or participating even today. So we thank you for being here. I'd like to ask those of you that are in the building to take the opportunity to turn and wave at those who are joining us by live stream. And we also wave at those in the back who are helping with our connection today. Good morning. Let's begin our time together in prayer. We close our eyes and turn our awareness within. We just allow ourselves to enter within our own self, our own being, our own awareness, becoming aware of our presence, our space, our heartbeat, our breath, our energy, our thoughts. We gather ourselves, so to speak, and allow to be fully present right here, right now. Today we open to the experience of wholeness, what that literally means in consciousness and in expression. We open to this idea and experience today that we may be more deeply aware and living out our wholeness, being whole. And for this time, a time of reflection, of celebration, of connection, of blessing, that we may be a blessing. We are truly grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. We invite you to stand with us this morning. I want to welcome Sarah and our band, and we're going to lead you in this song by Eddie Watkins Jr. that says, "We come together in the name of love." Greet the neighbor next to you. Say namaste, I bow to you. Look around in the sanctuary and feel the love that's shining through. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. Greet the neighbor next to you. Say, God is love and so are you. You're at home in the sanctuary. Receive the love that's here for you. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together in the name of love. We come together in the name of love. Yeah. So as you remain standing, take this opportunity to greet your neighbor without trying to sing a song at the same time. Just welcome them with an acknowledgement. Welcome this morning to the love, to the light that is right here. Yeah. Go ahead. We're going to ask you to keep standing as you greet your neighbor and Keep standing as we sing this song together that says, "We are one." We all live on the same earth. We fish and swim in the same oceans. We breathe the same air and gaze at the very same moon. We feel the warmth of the same sun. We are one. You got it. Let's sing it again. We all live in the same earth. We fish and swim in the same oceans. We breathe the same air and gaze at the very same moon. We feel the warmth of the same sun. We are one. Now you really got it. Sing it out this time. We all live in the same earth. We fish and swim in the same oceans. We breathe the same air and gaze at the very same moon. We feel the warmth of the same sun. We are one. We are one. One more time. We are one. We are one. You sound beautiful. Thank you so much. You may be seated this morning. It's so good to have you here. We want to welcome each and every one of you, and we take this opportunity to acknowledge our children, our youth, and our youth program. We have workers from nursery all the way up to our teens, where we have sponsors working with our youth. And so if you have a baby up through a teen who would like to be a part of this program, some of them are already in the back, but some of them will be heading back. So as our young people gather with our teachers, we affirm this blessing to them that says this together. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the divinity in you. We then extend that blessing to anyone in here that may be here for the first time. If you're here for the first time, and just simply raise your hand. We don't ask any more than that, but if you raise your hand, if you're comfortable, it means our welcoming team will extend a connections card to you, and it has a heart on it. If you attach that heart to your lapel, we can more easily identify you as someone here for the first time and make ourselves available for that. If you didn't want to raise your hand, there's lots of information in our Welcome Center. And some of you, perhaps online, this may be your first time finding us and tuning in. And then for many, you know this is your spiritual home, that these are people in whom you resonate. And so we take a moment to affirm that to one another. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the divinity in you. We truly thank you for that. If you've not yet turned off your cell phone, I'm going to ask you to turn those off, send it into the silence, or put it on airplane mode. It just keeps our airwaves more clear. Which reminds me, there is a workshop this afternoon after the service, beginning at noon. It'll be in our community room with Reverend Morgan Barclay and Mary Ann Tierney, if you two want to stand so they see the two of you. This is a combination of science and spirit working together on what does it mean to take a sabbatical. What does it mean to take a sabbatical and to literally unplug? And so if that speaks to you, then we invite you to join them after the service today for a time of discussion and discovery and experiencing that. I also want to acknowledge these two individuals. First of all, Pamela Rogers, one of our many volunteers. Many of you, we had been announcing earlier in the year that we were collecting items for migrant workers, families that come into this area, who do necessary work, and yet they often don't have access to some of the things that they need, and so we ask for your support. And I want to thank you for the generous outpouring, and I want to welcome Pamela as she shares an update. Would you please welcome Pamela Rogers?
Thank you. Good morning. So you brought your donations to Unity, dropped them off at the Welcome Center, and probably walked away assuming they would get in the hands of the people who need them Somehow. Well, I want to tell you about the somehow because it's a beautiful story of beloved community. Charlie and I loaded all of your gifts into our car and drove them to the Unitarian Fellowship in Hendersonville because they had built a drop-off station for migrant donations for all churches and all individuals to take advantage of. They had lots of volunteers, and what they would do is sort like items into great big bins, bins of toothbrushes, bins of bandanas, etc., etc. When everything was sorted, they loaded a truck and transported the bins to Agudas Israel Synagogue, where for 2 days, their many volunteers would take one item from each bin to make individual gift bags. When all the bins were emptied, all the gift bags were assembled, they loaded several vehicles and drove them to the Henderson County Public School Migrant Education Program, where they filled a conference room, I heard. Now, the job of the staff of the Migrant Ed program is to visit migrant camps each evening when everyone is in from the fields. They look for school-aged children and encourage their parents to allow them to go to school while they're here. Great work. Well, for the past 2 weeks, and probably for at least 2 more weeks, the staff members are also handing out gift bags to the men, women, and children in each camp. And there you have it, beloved community. Unity, a Unitarian church, a Jewish synagogue, a public school system, all coming together in service. But it all started with you and your generous gifts. I want you to know how grateful the men, women, and children are to receive these desperately needed items, and how deeply grateful they are for the gift of feeling welcomed, feeling valued. On behalf of our migrant siblings, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And now my husband will deliver the inspirational reading.
Poetry from Each of Us Has a Name. Each of us has a name given to us by God and given to us by our father and our mother. Each of us has a name given to us by our stature and the way we smile, and given to us by our clothing. Each of us has a name given to us by our mountains and given to us by our walls. Each of us has a name given to us by our sins and given to us by our longing. Each of us has a name given to us by our enemies and given to us by our love. Zelda reminds us that our wholeness is not so much a matter of holding on to your one name, but embracing the many names given to us by our experiences of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Pamela and Charlie. That was beautiful. So I'm going to invite Sarah over to the piano. If you were here Thursday night, you heard a beautiful song that she shared, and I asked her to share it today. And then Kat was supposed to be here today, and she's under the weather, and she could not, so she sent me a text last night and said, I may not be able to make it, I sent a text to Sarah last night about 10 o'clock and said, just a heads up, Kat may not be here. And so Kat is under the weather and she's not here. But what really blew me away, so to speak, is I came in this morning and she said, well, I did learn all the songs just in case. So we are so blessed with this amazing band. And so, Sarah Kohrs, thank you.
Every step is holy, every breath is life, every moment precious, when held up to the light, every heart connected, each the face of God. Grace has shown me that every step is holy. Every step is holy. Every breath is life. Every virgin precious, when held up to the light, every heart connected, each the face of God. Grace has shown me that every step is holy. Is holy, every breath is life, every moment precious, when held up to the light, every heart connected, each the face of God. Grace has shown me every step is holy. Every step is holy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you so much. They'll be back in a little bit for some more of you. Every step is holy. And that song tied in so beautifully to this story that Pamela shared. I did not even know that story, and I appreciate your telling that and helping us understand how it really does all work together. Thank you again. You all can head down and we'll call you back. Mary Ann also reminded me the afternoon workshop title is Spiritual and Tech Sabbath. It's not about a sabbatical, as I said. Maybe that's on my brain again this year. How to take a spiritual and tech Sabbath. So everything is holy. Today we begin a month-long series that is based on the book, This Life Is Yours. Reverend Linda Martella-Whitsitt was here just a few weeks ago, and she shared from her book. And so on Thursday nights, there will be a Zoom book study group. Whether you're virtual, in person, you can attend that Zoom book study. We're going to be going through this more deeply with some study questions. And then I'm taking the idea from some of these, and we're going to jump off each week and experience it in that context. And so I begin today with the idea of wholeness of being. What does that really mean? There's a beautiful quote by the Trappist monk Thomas Merton who said, "There is in all visible things a hidden wholeness." There is in all visible things a hidden wholeness. And so what does that mean? You know, if you look in the Bible, the Jewish scriptures, the Christian scriptures, there are many parables. If you look at the teachings of Jesus, there were many parables he taught about things being hidden. Like he said, the kingdom of God is like yeast that is hidden in the flour, so to speak. He also taught parables about the lost son, the lost coin, the lost sheep, things being lost or missing, which were ultimately teachings about wholeness and completion and how do we experience that. And so when Thomas Merton speaks to that, there is in all visible things a hidden wholeness. That's what we want to explore this month and begin to step into today, that wholeness. When I was in the seminary at Unity Village, I lived there on the grounds of Unity Village one of those years and the other nearby, experiencing the training for Unity Ministry. And one of the classes, one day in class, Robert Brummett was teaching the class, and we had been talking about these parables about the kingdom within and our wholeness and what it means to really live from a sense of wholeness. He guided us in this very in-depth meditation where we were guided to really connect with the inner presence, the still small voice within, to get a sense for that wholeness, that sense of connection. And then he said, I now want you to open your eyes and stand up. And for the next hour, until you hear the bells on the grounds chime, I want you to walk around this huge property at Unity Village. So for the next hour, I want you to be in a walking meditation. Stay silent. He was very adamant about that. Be silent, don't talk. But walk around the grounds and just have a walking meditation of what you just experienced. You connected to it inwardly. Now go out and walk and make it a walking meditation. And so we all set out in our different ways. The bell chimes. We know the hour is up. It's a huge bell tower. We all make our way back into the class, and we begin to talk about our experience. And I'll never forget one of my classmates. His name is Kurt. He talked about the fact that he started walking, and he was just left in this deeply connected state and was enjoying the quiet. He walked away down until on the grounds of Unity Village, there's this big swimming pool. It's a beautiful area, natural area. And he began to walk around that area, and out of nowhere, he said it's as if somebody just popped out, and it was a visitor, a person with a visitor tag on the grounds. And they saw him with his ministerial, official-looking tag and assumed he worked there. And so they went up to him and said, "Hi, sir, could you tell me?" And remember, he's in a walking meditation, and he's supposed to be silent. So he said in that moment, he just kind of smiled and went. And the person, of course, not understanding that kind of body language, just got louder and more animated, Could you tell me about this swimming pool and these grounds? And he's like, and he said, the person one more time said, well, I see you must work here, and I wanted to know. He said, I didn't really know what to do, so in that moment, I just started running. And we did the same thing. We laughed. But our instructor, Robert Brummett, who's so wise, as he talked to him, and he said, so let me ask you a question. He said, are there any times in your life when you're prone to run? And I'll never forget, not only Kurt, but all of us were like, oh. You ever felt like life was asking something of you and you didn't know how to meet the question? Life was calling forth something to be expressed, and you didn't quite know what to do in that moment. And so perhaps you retreated in some way. Perhaps we put up a defense. Perhaps we make stuff up. Perhaps we run. Whatever it is. But I'll never forget that, because what Robert went on to talk to us about, Robert said, I believe what Jesus was teaching and what all the spiritual traditions that are pointing us to the truth of our being are asking us to be in communion with it, to go within, to hear that still small voice, to connect with that presence, to know your connection with all that is. And then to open up your eyes and go out into the world and live your life in the awareness and from the awareness of that connection. And so how do we do that? How do we begin to live out our wholeness? What does that mean? Well, when we talk about the fact that you are whole, you are a whole being, we could use language to try to help us understand and to say things like, well, Ram Dass used to say this quote often. He would say, we all were born into this life and went through our somebody training. You are a daughter, a son, a sister, a brother, a this or that. You got these labels and these things that you could do, things you shouldn't do. We all go through life and had our somebody training. And Ram Dass would always say, and at some point of your life, you have to begin to undo the somebody training to discover who you are beyond all of that, to know your essential self, what Hinduism calls the Atman, that divine spark that's in all creation, what mystical Christianity calls the Christ presence and the consciousness that's within all beings, what the Buddhists call the Buddha nature that's within all beings. That each of us identify as an adaptive self. We have adapted ourselves to fit into our family, our world, our framework, our jobs. We learned as little children at some point you can no longer have a meltdown in the mall and it be okay. You can no longer have a temper tantrum or a good old-fashioned hissy fit, as my mom used to say. You can't just come apart anywhere and that be okay. You have to learn some things. You have to learn to adapt. But what begins to happen over time is we identify so much as our adaptive self that we lose sight of our original self. And we're both. We are absolutely both. The question is, are we in touch with the core of our being, with our wholeness, and are we living from that? So some of the things that we can do to know that invisible wholeness that is very much a part of our being, more a part of our being than anything is, how do we bring that out in our life? We want to look at that through, there are many doorways, but I want to take you through 3 doorways today. They are, number 1, to claim your spiritual birthright and belonging. Number 2, to be in touch with your ultimate well-being. And number 3, to have an experience of interconnectedness, an inseparable connection, not just the concept of it, but to have a genuine experience of what it means to be interconnected. So number 1, one of the first fundamental doorways into the experience of wholeness is to know that it is your spiritual birthright, and thereby it gives you belonging. You see, every person, no matter what they say, no matter how they act, every person on the face of this planet wants love, wants to know they are lovable, wants to experience love, express love, because that's what we are. Every person on this planet also wants to feel a sense of belonging. The very things sometimes that we can point to that appear to be the biggest rivals, for example, a gang, which appears to be very much about just us and against everybody else. Do you know why gangs are formed? Because people want a sense of belonging. If I can at least have belonging and acceptness and similarity here, then it meets some sort of need. So we have that universal need and desire for love, for belonging. And as a part of that we also have that we want to matter. If a person feels like their life doesn't matter, that there's no purpose, then there is truly no will to live. And to be in that state, to feel like you're not worth anything, you don't have any purpose, any reason to be here, you can't live long like that and thrive, because you must have a desire and a belief that there's a purpose for you to be here. Well, all of that is inherent in who we are. Reverend Linda Martello Whitsitt, in her book, the way she speaks to that, she says, wholeness is the eternal spirit, you that is one with all that is, the original you that requires nothing to be whole. That is our spiritual nature and our birthright. Again, if I point to the teachings of Jesus, Jesus told many stories about know yourself as an heir to the kingdom, in the lineage of, in the bloodline. It's part of your DNA. Know yourself as an heir to the kingdom and not a servant outside of it. One perhaps of the greatest stories he told that really demonstrates this, that is often completely misunderstood. But if you go back to the original language and really dig into what this story means, it's a parable. Parables were like a Buddhist koan. Parables were used to turn your thinking upside down to help make a point. And the point could be taken at a literal level, but the real point applied to your spiritual nature, the eternal truth. And so the story that he told, the parable that's recorded in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 20, is a parable about the workers in the vineyard. And as the story goes, there was a vineyard owner, and he needed workers. And so early in the morning, he established a value. He established a worth. It was called a denarius. Let's just call it $100. He established a value. And early in the morning, he called for workers and said, come and work in my vineyard today, and I will pay you this. And so in the morning, some showed up. But we're told that there weren't that many that showed up, so at 9 o'clock, he went out and called again. Still, there wasn't that many, so at noon, he called again. And then at 3 o'clock, I'm paraphrasing, but he was down at Starbucks, and he saw just people standing around, and he said, you all come on over here too. At 3 o'clock, he put out a call again, and then at 5, he put out a call again. 5 different times, inviting people to come. So more and more people come. And then as the end of the day comes, those that showed up at the earliest time, he starts to pay them, and he paid what had been established. He paid the full amount. Then the ones at 9 o'clock show up, and guess what? He pays them the same amount. And then the people at noon were paid the same amount. And then the people at 3 and at 5, they were all paid the same amount. Now, if you arrived at 5 o'clock and worked maybe 30 minutes and were paid the full amount, you're like, well, I like this. I'll be back tomorrow at 5. This works great. But if you arrived early in the morning and you just witnessed all of that, you would not be very happy. If you break these down, there were 5 of them. They refer to our 5 senses. You see, at the level of sense reality, physical reality, there are things that are not fair. There are things that appear unjust. Everybody is not equal in their ability to show up, right? And how they show up and what they bring. There is we're going to experience what you perceive as inequality there. That's a part of life. But why did he pay them all the same? Because the spiritual teaching is your spiritual value is already established. You may show up early, you may show up late. You may never show up in this lifetime. You may never remember who you are. But the message was your spiritual value, your spiritual worth, who you are as a whole expression of all that is God, it is already established, and there is nothing or no one that can change that. And that's a powerful thing when we begin to realize that our spiritual nature, our value, our worthiness, our worth, our wholeness, our being complete is already established. And so that's what it means when we say the first doorway to enter into not only an awareness of wholeness, but to live it out is to claim this. Because that's the point, is people had to claim it, they had to act upon it. That our journey of a lifetime is waking up to this truth and living from the truth that's already been established. It's already been decreed. If you are here, if you are born, then you are the image and likeness of God. Spiritually equal, spiritually blessed, spiritually the expression of God, just like any and everybody else. Can you really take that into yourself, what that means? And to live from that sense of belonging versus a sense of severed belonging. The adaptive self that feels a sense of severed belonging. So the second thing we can then be in touch with is our ultimate well-being. What it really means to know then, the scriptures say, it is well with my soul. Have you ever felt just absolutely miserable, but been able to pause for a moment and say, but it is well with my soul? I literally remember being in the back of an ambulance one time, being taken to the hospital. Not sure what was going on, but I was not doing well at that moment. And what was going over in my mind was, it is well in my soul. It is well in my soul. And there was a part of me that knew that no matter what was happening, it is well in my soul. To really be able to know that. What Reverend Linda Martella writes on this, she said, wholeness is the reality of yourself that is independent of circumstances. As such, it's not about your age, your physical condition, your feelings, your accomplishment, your genetics. You can ignore but never eradicate your wholeness. You can feel as if you are falling apart, but your wholeness can never be broken. Wow. You can feel as if you're falling apart, but your wholeness can never be broken. The way I say it is we can lose sight of our wholeness, but we can never lose that wholeness that's already been established. And so the more we begin to focus on the wholeness of my being, the more it begins to reflect in every area of our life. We begin to see that wholeness being reflected. I'll give you a beautiful example. There's a young man, his name is Matthew Stafford. In 1978, Matthew was just 13 years old. And when he was 13 years old, his family were in a car accident. In that accident, the car skidded off an overpass. It was in Iowa in the wintertime. The roads were very icy. And in that accident, Matthew's father was killed and his sister. He didn't wake up until many weeks later because he was severely damaged as well. He was in a coma. At the time of the accident, when it happened, he was 119 pounds. He had been popular, healthy, physically active. He woke up weeks later out of that coma at 79 pounds. Shattered bones and shattered dreams. When he woke up, he had a completely different body and a completely different reality, a completely different life. He woke up to great physical pain, huge loss, trauma and paralysis. It paralyzed him from the neck down, a 13-year-old healthy, active boy. And so as he began to wake up and absorb his reality, he had to do what he had to do, and he began to strengthen his body. He had teams of people working with him so that he could rehabilitate and function in a wheelchair, hopefully. And he began to do that, and he focused on that as much as he could, but he told that he really didn't know how to deal with it. And the brokenness for him felt like darkness and heaviness. You can imagine the sadness and the loss he was carrying. That's huge. And so now, as getting up into his older teen years, he begins drinking and drugs and just really kind of trying to check out and self-medicate from all of that. But he's also realizing that's not working. What is he going to do? And he had a teacher who was working with him and working with his body to strengthen his body. And the teacher said to him, he said, Matthew, you got to find a way to deal with that brokenness and with that darkness. Matthew later wrote, he said, if you don't learn how to embrace your brokenness and your darkness, you can never find the wholeness that is you. He said, if you don't learn how to embrace your brokenness and your darkness, you will never find the part of you that is right there, ready to integrate, heal, and transform. And he began to work with this teacher, and through that he discovered yoga. Now, if you know anything about yoga, how many of you know what the word yoga means? Union. Yoga is about union with yourself and union with a great state of being. he began to work with yoga. He said, I eventually had to learn how to direct my darkness into action. After the accident, I was taught to make my arms really strong, to learn to overcompensate for the paralyzed lower part of my body, but I really missed my body because my brain was still very much aware of my whole body. And he said, so in working with the spinal cord injury and practicing yoga, I had a phenomenal teacher that helped me connect with my awareness. By awareness, we mean our inner presence, our inner consciousness, our inner awareness. He said, I had a teacher that helped me connect with that inner part of myself. And I learned how to direct that awareness and move it throughout my body, and a miracle happened. In so doing, I discovered that my subtle body, my energy body, my spirit was always whole, that there was a dimension of me that was always whole. He said there's an awareness with each of us that is not dependent on the spinal cord or any part of our physical body. There's a consciousness that is a part of us that is more subtle and yet more intelligent than all of that. What I found as I started to recognize and feel some of the more subtle connections in my whole being, what I learned is who you are and what you think you are begins to change and stretch. He said, I actually recognize things I never knew before. I now understand we're made up of some combination of tangible and intangible consciousness, spirit and matter, and that there's a part of us that is always alive and well. Let me show you a picture of Matthew today and his book. The book that I'm reading from is his book, Waking. Waking. He says, I now teach this to others. I've never seen someone become more aware of his or her subtle body, the presence that constitutes them, without also becoming more loving and compassionate. Why? Because that's our true nature. Pure presence is love, is God. That is our nature. Today, he teaches yoga. He now works with patients at hospitals like the Mayo Clinic, but he also works with large corporations. He said he couldn't imagine being any happier, if you can believe that. He said, I can't imagine being any happier in my life than I am today. Eckhart Tolle said, you find peace and wholeness not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level. Isn't that beautiful? Wholeness is not established through conditions. Wholeness is established in presence. It's experienced through self-awareness. Wholeness does not require being free of all hurts or ills or imperfections. Wholeness is being, it's pure being, reflected through pure self-awareness. Wholeness is there beyond the form, the condition, the container. And to live in your wholeness is to be conveying that presence wherever you are and in the midst of whatever you are doing. So claiming our spiritual birthright and belonging, trusting in our well-being, our ultimate well-being, that it is well with my soul. Would you say that with me? It is well with my soul. And spending time in that, doing things like this together, helps spark that. It helps us remember that so that we carry it back out into the world. So claiming our spiritual birthright and belonging. Number 2, being in touch with that ultimate, it is well with my soul. It is well with my ultimate being. And may that wellness permeate my consciousness, my awareness, and help me meet the conditions, meet what is called forth, meet what I'm needing to express. May it flow through that. And number 3, it's to experience a sense of inseparable connection, to experience our interconnectedness. There's a beautiful quote by Black Elk, one of the many indigenous Native American teachers, but what Black Elk said, he said, the first peace, P-E-A-C-E, the first peace, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers. And when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that its center is really everywhere, and it is within each and every one of us. To know that sense of interconnectedness. Again, Reverend Linda Martella Whitsitt to me says something really important about this as well. Sarah, would you please come? She says, wholeness is the original and absolute you. It reaches beyond you, encompasses you, and it fuels you. The wholeness that you are exists within the whole, all of it, all of everything. It's the web of connectivity, the field of infinite intelligence, the ocean of existence. It's the seen and the unseen, the visible steaming from the invisible that you can sense and feel. When we have mystical experiences like angel visions or visitations from departed ancestors, you're experiencing you're interconnected to the whole. Everything is interconnected. I began to realize that in my life when in my first ministry I would meet with people and I started seeing, when I say see an image, it means that like an idea or a picture would come into my awareness so loudly that I couldn't ignore it. I'll never forget one of the first ones. I was meeting with a woman in my congregation who was absolutely distraught because her mother had passed away and they had not communicated for years, and she just always thought in the back of her mind she'd eventually have time to reconcile. And yet her mother died unexpectedly, and she was just left with these horrible feelings. And so she was in my office, and we were talking about that. And I was being very present as I could to her. But honestly, while I was sitting there, the only thing I could see in my head was a child's toy box. And I'm thinking, get thee behind me, Satan. Why are you? I'm trying to be compassionate and listen here. But it wouldn't. I just kept seeing this child's toy box. It got so strong in my awareness, I honestly remember how Charlie Brown's teacher used to talk, wah, 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 wah. I hope she's not listening here. But what began to happen is in just all I could kind of hear was wah, 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 wah. I no longer could really take in what she was saying, but I kept seeing this toy box. So she finishes talking, we have a prayer, and my heart's beating fast, so I said, I don't know what this is. It may or may not mean anything, but for whatever reason, I just have seen this toy box. Just kept popping into my awareness when you were talking, so I just wanted you to be aware of it. And she looked at me like I thought she would, and I thought, yeah, that's about the dumbest thing you could ever say to anybody at the end of a counseling session. And so she left, and I'm really thinking, that was horrible. I am never doing that again. So the Sunday service rolls around, and she's there. Service begins to end. Service ends, and I'm standing out here, and I notice her kind of hanging back, and I'm getting nervous. I'm thinking she's going to tell me that I need to quit ministry, that was just pitiful. And finally, most everybody's through, and then she comes through, and she has this paper in her hand, and tears begin to flow. She said, when you said toy box, she said, as soon as you said it, I remembered there's a toy box I have in the attic that I've had for a few years, that my mom had sent it to me, but I never even looked at it. I just put it in the attic. And she says, so when you said toy box, I immediately knew what that was. So I went home and I pulled it down, and she began to cry. She said, I had no idea. Look at this letter that my mother left me. You think she said, wow, I almost fell down. I'm not kidding you. Because I thought, I didn't do that. How did that happen? How did that happen? I can't even begin to count for you the times now that things like that happen. In so many different ways. How many of you have experienced in your own way something that you know is coming from a sense of connectedness that you within your own brain could not have orchestrated? My friends, that is the evidence of our ultimate wholeness. If you ever doubted that, that's the evidence of our ultimate wholeness. Sarah, would you give us that music? Wholeness, to really experience, it's about claiming our spiritual birthright and belonging. It's already established in you. You are spiritually whole. You are saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit, washed with the blood of the Lamb, dunked and blessed, and whatever you want to call it. You have got it. You can still do those things, but you've got it. It's established. The Creator looked upon creation and said, it is good. It is good. Now we wake up to that. Just like a baby grows into its potential, we're just growing into our wholeness potential. So it's part of your birthright. And so number 2, we begin to claim well-being. I claim well-being as my soul. I claim well-being in my relationships. I claim well-being in my job. I claim well-being. And then I begin to ask, help me to know this connection and be an instrument of the greater connection. When you serve others without seeking something in return, you are activating the activity of wholeness within your own being. When you open yourself to be an instrument of love, you are opening yourself to be an instrument of wholeness. How many of you this week are willing to spend a little time thinking about what it means for you to claim your spiritual birthright? What it means for you to be in touch with your ultimate well-being. And what it means for you to experience your sense of connection and interconnectedness. Listen to this chorus by Sarah as we go into a time of meditative prayer together.
You are the keeper of your spirit and the keeper of your life. You're the keeper of your head and heart, so keep yourself inside. You're the keeper of your spirit and the keeper of your life. You're the keeper of your head and heart, so keep yourself inside.
You are the keeper of your spirit. You are the keeper of your light. You are the keeper of your consciousness, your awareness. You are the keeper of your heart. So keep yourself in sight. Keep your wholeness in awareness, in your awareness. The gift of this life is the opportunity to discover in truth, in expression, in experience, what you already are in spirit, in divine idea, in the pattern of potential. And the pattern of your potential is what is called the Son of God, the seed of God, the image, the likeness. That your very essence is divine essence. It cannot be otherwise. And that you are a living, breathing, beautiful opportunity. You are an opportunity to remember and to walk on this earth in physical form and to awaken from the dream and to live it out. We have the opportunity to remember and to celebrate and to create in a very life-affirming and constructive way. May all of our creations reflect our wholeness. May all of our creations reflect our interconnectedness. May all of our thought creations, our intentions, may all that we put our hand and our heart toward and within, may it be a creation that is meant to express the beauty of who we are as the wholeness coming to know itself in every moment. And so we give thanks for this opportunity to remember. And the key is always love. If there is a sense of life-affirming compassion, if there's a feeling of inclusion, of life-affirming creativity and connectedness, those feelings and that direction, we can be assured that we are flowing from and being wholeness in every moment as best we can.
You're the keeper of your spirit and the keeper of your life. You're the keeper of your head and heart. So keep yourself inside. You're the keeper of your spirit and the keeper of your light. You're the keeper of your head and heart. So keep yourself inside.
Keep your ultimate self, your big S, capital S self, in sight. And so it is. Would you just take a second, and this is a posture that says, I acknowledge that wholeness in you, what we may call divinity. Take an opportunity to look around. Don't run from anybody, just silently look at them. To acknowledge that. And so we acknowledge each and every one, and we give thanks. Rev. Christy. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Darlene. What a beautiful reminder, the wholeness of being that place inside of us that just can't be shaken, can't be touched. And the interconnectedness and that beautiful share on the interconnectedness of the faith communities and how one act of kindness gets extended to the other. Beautiful. And so I would like to invite Tom, our prayer chaplain, up. And Tom is carrying a prayer box. And as you know, unity it's based on affirmative prayer. And we have the opportunity here to have written prayer requests submitted, and also Tom will be available after the service today. We have prayer chaplains available for prayer. So if you would like support in any area of your life, creating your dreams, awakening, and the idea of wholeness, please see one of our prayer chaplains. Tom is available, like I said, after the service today. And I'd like to call forth our ushers. We have the opportunity, just spinning off of that message and the beautiful share on what we collected in our outreach project, to really tap into that wholeness within ourselves, that place, that wellspring of where all there is. And this is our opportunity to tap into our own generosity, and just want to extend a huge thank you for those here, for those around the world, for your continued support in this ministry. It means everything to us, and we are able to create continued ripple effects to continue blessing the world. So thank you for that. Let's share our affirmation together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am.
I am now in perfect balance and flow with the universal tides of giving and receiving. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Sarah.
And the dreams of a better day to come, and the dance of heaven with the earth all live in me. In the land of I am, more than I have been, I am more than I will be, I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been, I am more than I will be, I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been, I am more than I will be, I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been, I am more than I will be, I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been, I am more than I will be, I am all that I am.
Yeah. Oh, in the land of I am. I want to thank each and every one of you for just engaging this so beautifully with your heart, with your consciousness, the way you live this. We bring this service to a close by asking you to stand as we join together in the peace song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with God's love in our hearts. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be, with God as creator. Brothers and sisters are we. Let us walk with each other